We are living through a massive shift in gaming, and with some of that comes some resets. And I think one of the things that we're going to see reset here is the length of video games, the standard length of video games. I think we've gotten too long. And I recently finished Hellblade 2. I finished it this weekend, and I finished it between 7 and 8 hours for myself. And I think that was a perfect time. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of criticism like, this is ridiculous. This game is too short. And first of all, well, I think you're wrong. Second of all, I think there's a lot of just polarization out there with any Xbox game at the moment because of Xbox buying all these studios and these studios dropping only to Xbox Game Pass and PC. And so I think that there are certain people out there saying that this is garbage, hot garbage, dumpster fire. Anybody that's saying that is just straight lying to you. That's it. They're just lying to you. And they're completely biased. But in finishing this game, I have spent the weekend thinking about it a lot. And what is it that I enjoy about it? And I think part of what I enjoy about it, one, it's just a great narrative experience. But part of what I really enjoy about it and why it's left such an impression on me is because I was able to beat it. And I think a lot of that has to do with this sense of time. I think shorter games are better. And I think we're going to see a return to these shorter games. I think the age of 50-hour plus games, there's a place for those, for sure, no doubt. When you do it right, you can absolutely do it. But I think in a world where we're all competing for time and there's more games and more options than ever before, games like this 10-hour, 10 to 20-hour game length, I think is ideal. And I think we're going to see more games doing that and aiming for that. I dropped this tweet this morning, actually, and here's what I said. With the ever-increasing demands of games and more choices available to gamers than ever before, the 7 to 8 hour length of Hellblade was a significant advantage, motivating me to complete it. It really did. Because I knew it wasn't this forever game, I was like, okay, I'm going to spend 4 hours today and knock out 4 hours. Now, think about it. If it was a 100-hour game, would I have been motivated over the weekend to say, okay, I'll take a 4 hour chunk here, a 4 hour chunk here? No, because I don't have, I can't see the end. I can't see the light at the end of that tunnel. So I wouldn't have done it. I continue. I am quoting myself here. Let me continue. I prefer wrapping up a fantastic shorter game rather than leaving a 50-plus hour game unfinished. I think it's better. I think there's a sense of accomplishment there. We're going to talk about it in a minute. In beating a game rather than spending 50 hours, 5 times the amount of time in a game and never beating it. To me, 10 hours is the ideal game length with 20 hours as the maximum. I think more games should target this range in the future. I'm not looking for endless crafting loops or exhaustive map exploration. I want solid, substantive gameplay, and 10 to 20 hours delivers just that. And then I asked, what do you think? And it's got me thinking, and I thought, okay, because there's a post come up, there's these nostalgic posts that gamers make that, gaming has gotten away from itself. I wish gaming, we could get back to the good old days of gaming. And I don't think that's true. I think we are in the good old days of gaming. I think gaming is at this golden point. There's just more options than ever before. But I do think there is this sense that games are just too long. Because there are more games, more options than ever before, I think games are just too long. So I did my research here. Let me prove to you that great games can be short. This critique that Hellblade 2 should be longer than 10 hours is ridiculous. And my proof here is running through the top 15 games over on Metacritic of all time. These are the top rated games. Now, I don't think that Metacritic is perfect. I don't claim that it's perfect, but I think this is a pretty decent list of the top 15 games. And let's take a look at their times. And what we're going to find here is a lot of them are very short. So we'll start with number 15, which came in at Half-Life 2. Now, technically, it was NFL 2K that came in at 15. This was number 16, but we're not going to count a sport game. A sports game literally can be an hour long. I think that's unfair. So Half-Life 2, main story is just 13 hours. For our reasons, our purposes here, we're going to go for main plus sides. Not completionists. Completionists is everything. But main plus sides, I think, is a pretty average rating for players. So Half-Life 2, 15 and a half hours. Boom. It's under that 20-hour market there. I think that's perfect. Absolutely. And Half-Life 2 was the 360 era. Halo Combat Evolved, 11 and a half hours. Game-changing, game-revolutionary game right there, 11 and a half hours. for main plus sides. We've got Super Mario Odyssey, 27 hours. Now, what you're going to find here is there's of the top 15 games, there's 16 games over 20 hours. 3 of those are under 50. This would be one of those. And then 3 of them are above 50. And what's interesting is the 3 that are above 50 are all very recent games. So Super Mario Odyssey, for the main plus size, 27. For main story, 12.5. So I would say I would qualify this as meeting that, because probably right around 20 hours, you're getting a big chunk, if not all of this game done. We've got Grand Theft Auto 3. What? Grand Theft Auto 3. That's right. Grand Theft Auto 3 comes in, and I believe number 11 or 10 here. I think it's 11. Again, 15 hours for main story, 20 hours for main plus sides. One of the top 15 games of all time rated. Metroid Prime. Again, this game's a classic. The Nintendo GameCube here comes in at 15 and a half hours. Main plus sides. We've got Grand Theft Auto 5. Now, this is one of the more recent ones. I'd say Xbox One, PS4 era, and beyond. 50 plus hours on sides. A long one here. Absolutely. And fantastic. Maybe one of the best games ever. Absolutely fantastic. We got another one that's very recent here. Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I said, it's recent that these hours took this jump. 82 and a half hours for main plus sides, 185 hours completion. That's because there's a lot to do in that game. But jumping back to Perfect Dark 2000 on the Nintendo 64. Main plus sides, 16 hours. The main story by itself, 8 hours. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Now we're getting into this is in the top 10. This is deep into the top 10 here. 8.5 hours, 15 hours main plus sides. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. It was on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox there. We've got The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is another more recent. Like I said, 3 of these the games that are over 50 hours seem to be all very recent entries into gaming. 98 hours here. Main story alone is 50 hours. And I think this is what leads to that nostalgia feeling. Yes, these are great games. These are the top games of all time. But there's only 3 of them over 50 hours. I think length, first of all, I think making these epic value AAA 100-hour plus games, 50 or let's say 50-hour plus games with these 3 titles, can it be done? Yes. I think it's very rare. And I think a lot of games have gone for time instead of quality. And they're not able to, when you can do it, it's special. It's a Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's a Grand Theft Auto 5. But out of those 3 games, I've played all 3 of them. Ask me how many I've beaten. Only one. The only one I've beaten out of that 3 list is Red Dead Redemption 2. Why? Because I reached this wall. I just don't have the time in my life. I have one of these games a year, maybe every 2 years, to spend that much time doing it. Super Mario Galaxy 2, 21 hours. I'm going to consider this one coming under the wire because the main story is 13. Super Mario Galaxy, again, 14 hours and 21 hours. We're now in the top 3. There's 3 games remaining. Grand Theft Auto 4 is 27 and a half hours, 40-ish hours there. And 20 to 30, I would say going forward, what I would like to see is 10 to 20 standard games. That's like this sweet spot. A long game would be under 50. I don't think games over 50 hours, I think it's just incredibly hard to do, and I think there's exhaustion that sets in there. Soul Calibur. I believe Soul Calibur is number 2 game rated of all time. 7 hours. It's a little bit different of a style, though. And then finally, Legend Ocarina of Time. You can see about 30 hours there. And that, at the time, it was considered a long game, and I think it is. But I think that's that sweet spot. So going back to my post here, I genuinely believe 10 to 20 hours is the sweet spot. I think the fact that only 3 of the games in the top 15 list are over 50 hours, and all 3 of them, Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, don't know why I can't say that, are all very recent games, I think says to where we've come. We're almost a victim of our own technology because you can make things bigger, better, longer. Everyone's trying to make them longer and not necessarily bigger and better. And I think I would rather beat a high quality 10-hour game than experience 50 hours in one of the best games ever, but never beat it. There's just not that sense of accomplishment there. Sense of accomplishment is one of them that I think the 10-hour, there's something to be said about wrapping it up that I just think makes games better. I think we're going to see a reversion to this. I actually think Ninja Theory sets it out well that a shorter game is better for the future of gaming. I think you've got quality over quantity. Yes, it's a short game, but look at what it did. It did move the genre forward. If anyone's telling you that it's not, they're lying to you. I'm talking about Hellblade 2 here. It did things in storytelling and narrative experiences that Hellblade 1 did not do. Not even close. And it's very good. I think time efficiency is huge here with games. This is why I'm for games being under 20 hours. I think 10 to 20 hours is the sweet spot. It's in today's busy world. I think gamers just don't have the time to invest 50 plus hours into a single game. Also, keep in mind, I think we're to this point in gaming history where gamers are all ages. Before, when I was a kid, I think games were primarily targeted at kids. So kids had more time. Adults don't have that kind of time. Not to mention when you have more options, of games, do I have time to spend 100 hours in a game? And that means I basically have to ignore every other game that drops out there. With a Hellblade 2, I finished it over a weekend. I took a few 3 to 4 hour chunks and beat it and enjoyed it. I think shorter games fit into tight schedules. It allows players to complete their experience without those extensive time commitments. I think it reduces burnout. That's a huge one. How many of you have felt gaming burnout? I think playing long games without finishing them leads to fatigue. I think it leads to frustration. I've experienced it myself. I think shorter games are less likely to cause that gaming burnout. I think it keeps things fresh, enjoyable. You mark it off your checklist. You're like, boom, I've experienced that. I've done it. I'm in, I'm out. I love this. I don't need endless game loop to be satisfied there. Now, some games have that as a mechanic, and they do it absolutely. They smash it. No doubt. I'm not saying that those games shouldn't exist. I'm just saying I think the future of gaming is going to be this 10 to 20 hour sweet spot. You can see it. The top games of all time, the majority of them are under 20 hours. Memorable experiences. I think it's more memorable because you end up beating it. There's a lasting impression due to it being concise. I think you can make it impactful in that concise time. Sometimes, I'm not saying all games, but sometimes long games struggle to maintain that compelling story over extended playtime. I think it's why there's only 3 that are over 50 on the greatest games list, on the highest ranked 15 games. I think the reason there's only 3 that are over 50 is because that's very hard to do. And only 3 have managed to do it. But let me ask you, out of those 3, Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Breath of the Wild, how many have you beaten? Out of those 3, if you've played all 3, how many have you beaten? Have you beaten all of them? I've only beaten 1. I've got 50 hours, 40 hours in on the other 2, but the only one I've beaten is Red Dead Redemption 2. And a big part of that is time. Replayability, I think short games can be replayed multiple times, and I'm fine with that. I think extended development time for long games can lead to resource strains as well. I think resource is something. I think when a game is more concise, you can develop on perfecting it. Hi-Fi Rush is an example. I think Hi-Fi Rush is a fantastic game and absolutely crushed it. And part of that, again, another game I beat. Hit that 10 to 20 hour mark right there, that sweet spot. I think there's an accessibility factor with shorter games. I think short games are more accessible to broader audiences. That's why you see the majority of the top 15 games ranked of all time are between that 10 and 20 hour sweet spots. I think long games are daunting for newcomers, especially those with limited gaming experience. But even me, when I think about, do I jump into this game? It's 100 hours. It's 98 hours. I don't think I can start it. I just don't have that kind of time. And I think finally there's that completion incentive, and you cannot underestimate that completion incentive. I think knowing a game can be complete in a reasonable time frame encourages players to beat it. Whereas that daunting prospect of 50 plus hours I think it discourages a lot of people from even starting and then progressing in the game. Like, yes, I can knock out, I can spend a whole day, 10 hours. I can spend 5 10-hour games getting 50 hours into this game. I don't have 5 10-hour days. I can spend a weekend beating a game and be completely satisfied. Finally, I did drop this post or this poll over on Twitter, and or over on the YouTube channel here. Let's hit the refresh button. It did just drop an hour ago, so this is just the sample size of everybody here that listens to this channel, but I thought it'd be worth closing on this. What's your ideal game length? Under 10 hours, 13%. 10 to 20 hours is 48%, so the vast majority. So I would say total, what are we looking at that? 4, 5, 6, 61%. Say 20 hours or less. 50 hours of less is in the 70%. Only 27% say over 50 hours. I love getting lost in these massive worlds. And yeah, I think that's correct. I just think there's a reason the top 15 games of all time, the vast majority of them hit that 10 to 20 hour sweet spot that I'm talking about. I think we're going to see it. I'd like to see it. I think we're in this shift of gaming. I think Hellblade is a part of that shift. Starfield, I have 2 days in. That's 48 hours. And I'm not even close to the top one. And I'm not saying that places for those types of games don't exist. I just think that they're harder to do and harder to do correctly. Now, imagine you take, I'm using Starfield as the example here. Imagine you take that Starfield experience that I have 48 hours in, and you reduce it. And I didn't really do a lot of side quests. So let's say I've played 3 hours since the new thing has dropped. So let's say I have 45 hours in it. Let's say you drop that experience down to 20 hours, fine tune it. Does that improve the score? Offer me more meat in that experience? I think it does. I really do. Again, I'm not saying that those types of games shouldn't exist or can't be world-changing games. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the best games ever made. I think Grand Theft Auto's up there as well, 5. I think Zelda is there as well. I'm just saying it's harder to do, and I'm saying I think less people long-term may play those games. Anyways, I would love to know what you guys think. What is your ideal gaming time? And am I wrong here? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We drop videos like this all the time right here. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.